So this is where we were, 2-point perspective, and then we created a light source. Down the road, you should be able to draw things out of your imagination in perspective. We've just looked at a cube or a square. We're going to be moving into a sphere, and then there's a column. And this one has it's all about the light, right? So you can be able to see where the light's coming from. The light comes down here and it hits this, that goes into the shadow, and then there's reflected light here, and this is the cast shadow. Same over here, same over here. So you can see where the light is. Basically, this is all behind the light on some level. Another piece that's got the lighting, so that's what makes something look three-dimensional, is that you understand how something would work in perspective. Perspective, 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 perspective. This doesn't have that because it doesn't have the information of, it's a sphere, so it lacks that level. There's no information on it. So let's look at this. So this is a piece that's got a light source on it, and we have a cone and a sphere and a cube and a column. So the light is unified. The light's coming down this way. It hits this side, it hits this side, it hits this side, hits this side. So if I treat it and toss it into Photoshop, this is what Photoshop's going to see, is I break it into shapes. So one of the things that I'm taken by is even the background. Most people don't have any awareness or consciousness of negative space. Negative space is what's all around this. You actually can't have these shapes without having negative space. Positive space and negative space go together intimately. So this is what the computer sees. The computer breaks it into shapes, and if I could even count my numbers of values here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So as an artist, then what you're doing is that you're using steps and values to turn your space. You're using gradations. So this is a little complicated. We're going to do something easier than that, but this is kind of what the computer says. So what I'm going to have you do is to draw this, find some paper, and you're going to measure out. This is a way you can either hand draw this photograph, you could hand draw it, or you can use two different types of grid to transfer the image. So one grid is where you have a piece of paper, and all you do is you have to make a perfect square. So if it's 1 inch by 1 inch, or if it's 1.5 inches by 1 inch, or 2 inches by 2 inches, you make a perfect square, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you transfer an image, this is how I was able to set a Guinness World Record by creating the world's largest chalk drawing, right? We covered 90,000 square feet, and it came out of a small drawing that had a grid on it. So we gridded it out. So instead of one of these being at 1 inch, each one of these was 30 feet, and there was a whole bunch of them. So if I'm drawing, if I have 1A, all I'm doing is I'm really lightly sketching just that shape. I try to see it in this whole square, like where is it? It's over here. So then I look at this square and I go, oh, there's just a teeny triangle there and a little bit of that ball right there. And I draw it really lightly. So any good draftsman or drawer draws really lightly in the beginning. It's this sketching, because what you're doing is you're slowly working on establishing something on your drawing paper, on your picture frame. So you draw it really lightly. Later on you commit, later on you do details. So, I might look at this, because I have some straight lines, I could look at this point here and then come all the way down where C and D meet, and I could go in that far, which is about 1/4 of the way, and I could put a little anchor point. And then I could take my ruler and I could ruler that line. And then from there to here, Then I could do another anchor point, and then I could kind of just lightly draw it a couple times. It has to come down this low to be there. And so I go through each shape and I work on, it's a lot about negative space. It's like, okay, that's not a little bit more than halfway down. So put a little anchor mark there. How does it go up? If I draw this a couple times, can I get a circle-ish, closest, lines, things like that. And then here's another way. If you don't have a ruler, this is the rule of thirds. I will cover it other times. This is an old geometrical system, so that whatever size you're working with, you can do a diagonal and another diagonal, and that will give you the center. And you can keep subdividing this piece until you have this light grid work on it, and transfer your piece that way. So they're kind of the same things. This one's a squared measurement thing. This is more of a geometrical thing. And let's see. And then play around with values. See if you can get some values happening. So let's look at some other three-dimensional space. So this is some boxes that I put on the floor, and then I put tape on the floor. So it looks simple, but if you're standing in front of it, or even right now, like, go ahead and draw this. After you've spent some time working on this and got this down and done this drawing, this will be another drawing. This could be a sketch in your sketchbook. You could do it quickly. You can see how this is still all set up in 2-point perspective. And then if you wanted to, just the beginning of looking at 3-point, then 3-point looks like this. So here's the center line, right? It's almost straight on. Right there's about the center. And then as lines, because this is all below the horizon line, I'm looking down at it, then all of these points go to another vanishing point that's down here. So 3-point perspective, which is really how the world works, XYZ. You have one vanishing point here, one vanishing point here, and one vanishing point here.